So I don't know about you, but I am very excited to see this match. I don't know about you. I haven't been paying too much attention to your tournament runs, this year, but I haven't had a chance to play either of these players. So I am excited to see firsthand like how this is gonna go. Have you played either of them?
I played Sempra at Vancouver. I got absolutely throttled on stream,
Ooh,
and
okay.
I actually the open team shoots were shared, and I saw Sempra's ult, and this dude has been beating me on ladder repeatedly. So like I have a lot of respect for both players. Obviously, they're both regional champions. And I think they have a sick storyline. Like obviously, both of them winning their regional or their first event back to back. But I'm excited to see what they got. I'm a fan of both teams. I think that they're just really meticulously crafted, well thought out teams. But we'll have to see how they match up because when I heard about this, I was like, man, I kind of feel like Sempra might have the advantage. It just feels like a lot of these Pokemon are super obnoxious to deal with. Torkoal's a big threat, and there's just not a lot of damage coming from Justin's side of the field. He's got to manage his parish well, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of weird because like I am a huge fan of Elegant Torkoal, and I haven't loved it in this format, but I definitely still respect it because to me, everyone runs Safety Goggles Arcanine, and I will tell you, we have the open sheet now. For anyone who hasn't seen it though, the Arcanine on the Parish side of the field is not Safety Goggles, so it's going to be a little weird to see how the Arcanine. It is Terra Grass. Something I was mentioning before is like it's not Safety Goggles, but it is Terra Grass. So if you lead your Arcanine into Lily Cold, do you really want a Terra Grass? Is that what you're afraid of? I don't know. Committing a Terra and then eating a fire move, like that doesn't sound too good. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I think if Justin can manage the Lily Cole portion of the team, I think he's got a pretty good matchup there. But it's like just taking that brute force is gonna be really tough. It also would be interesting, like maybe they don't even go Lily Cole. Maybe they go along the lines of, you know, just Torkoal or just bringing the other Pokemon. I'm not really sure. I'm interested to see how the game one goes.
I definitely expect to see Torkoal just to power up the two photosynthesis mons, if anything. I feel like that's just a lot for Justin to deal with, like in this matchup. Like just spamming Specs, Specs Moonblast, Specs Shadow Ball is a lot to deal with, or even just with the Scarf Tusk, the Specs, or the Scarf, Headlong Rush and stuff can be super obnoxious. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, for sure. Another interesting thing to point out is taking the more hyper offensive team, if you will, um, and looking at teams that could like try to absorb that. I feel like having a team on the other end that has 5 out of 6 protects, that's a pretty good way to do that because I feel like having 5 protects now, the Iron Hands being the one that doesn't have it. Having protect on those other 5 Pokemon, I feel like that's a pretty good way to start absorbing some of those like Specs and Scarf, sun boosted moves. I think that if there's going to be a team that can kind of have the defensive counterplay to this very offensive team, this might be the one.
I definitely agree. I think that in open sheets, especially, like knowing that they're both Specs and Scarf, it's a huge deal. Especially like you mentioned, having all those protects. You can just double protect turn one, figure out what they're gonna do, and then just play accordingly turn two. Especially with something like Gothitelle, who potentially could um, trap in the Tusk or trap in the Fluttermane, and you can react accordingly. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's very true. Like if you see, you see a Moonblast come out, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I will Terrifire my Iron Hands, or you see see a Headlong Rush come out when you protect your Arcanine, you're like, Terra Grass is not so bad. So I think it'll be. I honestly I predict it to be even. Like I would not be surprised either way. I know you were saying you favor the Sun side a little bit here. I feel like you got that firsthand experience though.
I did a little bit, but I also am curious to see like maybe if we see what kind of modes Justin is going to whip out. We obviously have the parish mode. We got the Palafin mode as well, which is pretty real. I don't know if we're going to see Palafin into Sun, um, but it still is always an option. We saw actually, funnily enough, Justin actually did beat this team. I just remembered he played against Nails, who was the original creator of Sempra's team. So then, and Justin did win that matchup against Nails in top four in a nail biter. Honestly, I remember watching that one live, and he did opt to bring the Palafin in one of the games because the Torkoal was such an issue. So we'll have to see because I guess yeah, Justin did beat this team already in tournament.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I guess I didn't think about that because I kind of like Nails at that tournament. It was really funny. I saw he was kind of one of those guys, and I'm sure you've experienced this before, where you sit next to him every round, but you like never face him, so you don't really know what they're doing. You just like see them there. You see them in day two. You see them, making cut and stuff like that, and you're like, how do I have no idea what's going on with you today? But I feel like I've seen you all over the place. So I feel like I knew he was running Lily Cole. I just didn't know how similar. So was Nails running the same team or similar?
I think it was almost the same team. I'm blanking if the Flutter was there, but I was pretty sure it was.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, so I either way, it's something that Justin has played, and especially playing it in top four of a tournament, that's a big deal. That's the best kind of practice you can get, right? So
Oh, definitely. And I think from what I've seen, um, I don't quote me on this just because I'm not 100% sure, but there was some inspiration taken from Nails. At least I think that's what Nails was saying for this team. I think it
mhm.
was uh, maybe Nails is the creator. So facing the creator of a team, always is one of your best ways to get the practice. Like, everybody fought Rinya's son, but you fight Rinya using Rinya's son. It's going to be like that is the best experience you can get. So I feel like that might be. You're right. That might be going in his favor too. Facing the guy who made the team might help him out here.
Yeah, so I know this set was pretty close, and I know King Gambit actually played a pretty big role in Nails in the game that he did take. Um, the the King Gambit was huge, and I know that the Palafin came later in the set, so we'll have to see. We see the leads here with King Gambit and Fluttermane into Iron Hands and Palafin.
All right. Well, interesting to know. So both of the Pokemon here, the Flutter and the Kingambit, cannot protect. So this fake out is going to be pretty free. You could make a crazy play and fake out the Flutter, but I feel like you don't want to do that. At least not turn one. Probably not.
Probably not in the best, like in the first game of a set, but you never know. One of the things about Palafin is that it exerts very little pressure on turn one, especially because we know it's Terra Grass, so it's even weaker. So Palafin is a little bit of dead weight right now. Obviously, you got to switch it out. So that's always the big conundrum with Palafin is that it's really holding you back a little bit, and then obviously it comes in later with the stats a little weaker than a base formation.
Yeah, I didn't notice it was Terra Grass. I was under the assumption it was water, but that does make sense that you'd go Terra Grass. Though it does fall into the same, oh, I'm gonna Terra Grass to avoid Sleep Powder, and then suddenly there's a Torkoal. So I'm not sure we'll see that Terra Grass coming out. I feel like the safest play here is probably fake out that King Gambit slot, which is honestly being counterplayed immediately with the switch to Torkoal and the Terrifier. Okay, I was just gonna say Terrifier makes a lot of sense. That did 40. It said resisted, and I do not believe that was a resisted hit. Honestly,
That's the power of Specs Flutter with the boost. It's absolutely absurd. The Terrafire was obviously pretty safe there. I think it was a pretty good play. You burn the Terra early, but like I feel like Iron Hands is super valuable in this matchup. But that does mean in the future there's no potential ways to dodge Sleep Powder.
mm-hmm. I see Arcanine coming in. It still takes again like 64% from a Moonblast. Absolutely ridiculous. And the
Oh,
Iron Hands. Oh, big crit going into the
that
big
was
crit
a
going into the Iron Hands.
there's a huge live on the Arcanine there as well, just so that it can stick around for one more turn. But the Moonblast doing 64% to resist the target is absurd.
Yeah, two resisted hits doing about 64 and 35%. I do not believe in the type chart anymore, honestly. I'm a little surprised. I'm not sure. I don't really know the base Palafin calcs, but I was like, maybe Jet Punch would have taken out the Fluttermane. Would have been interesting to see that because I feel like that would have been a huge pick. Um,
Yeah,
wow.
especially with Torkoal not exerting too much pressure, but Justin switched it out. Obviously now Palafin can definitely pick it up, which will probably help a lot. But is that fear that King Gambit could come in if he wants to potentially snarl. So that's not the safest option.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you lost one of your biggest pieces to deal with that King Gambit because you do have an Arcanine, but it is pretty low, probably Sucker Punch range. Definitely after that Flare Blitz and the Earth Power just taking it out. So we do see that like the Palafin does take the Flutter Mane, but I feel like Tusk or King Gambit just great switches in there. Tusk actually a little not as good as I thought. I was expecting like, oh, Scarf is really good into the Flutter. But with that speed boost, Flutter taking advantage of the opposing Torkoal. Very interesting how that works.
It is true that also the Great Tusk also has Terra Steel, so that could be an option as well here. It might
Oh, for
have to
sure.
be. Um, but there's also we're running out of sun turns, so that could also be another issue for the Great Tusk if Palafin can start punching it, because Palafin is very, very weak, obviously, when the sun is up, considering it only has 2 water moves to attack. So getting rid of that sun, I think we're gonna have to see Torkoal switching out here just to conserve that, which could be exploited by Justin over there.
Yeah, that could definitely be taken advantage of. Well, it's interesting to look at the Tusk, just to look at its moveset. He has Headlong, Earthquake, Close Combat, and Rock Slide. And I feel like here you kind of have to click Headlong, but at that point, you only have so many turns before you can just get taken out by, oh my gosh, and 67. I was going to say a
Oh,
Jet Punch next turn, but I assume we see a double up. Does Torkoal have enough to take out? No, it does not. Okay. And he lets the sun go down. Interesting. I was definitely on your side there. I thought preserving that sun was totally the correct play. Um, but it seems they just wanted that flamethrower, which honestly not bad damage. Not
I
bad.
think the flamethrower was worth it because now everything can be picked off by potentially King Gambit here. Obviously, there's a lot of mind games with Sucker Punch, and also Palafin is just faster, so Jet Punch will always go first, so you can't actually Sucker Punch Palafin. So we'll have to see how this shapes out, but King Gambit is looking like it's in a fantastic position.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like maybe we see a perish because you want to avoid that sucker punch. So it's like, do you protect or do you just go for the perish? Because like maybe actually no, he only has 2v2, so he'd actually lose that. My bad. I'm thinking he had a third Pokemon. I kept forgetting the Iron Hands went down to 4 resisted hits because that was not real in my I tried to block that out.
The type chart truly did not matter for Fluttermane there.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah, so I feel like King Gambit has this one wrapped up. At this point, you're kind of thinking, where do I go in game two? How do I preserve the Iron Hands better? Because you lost the Iron Hands early, and it's interesting to be like, yeah, Iron Hands on the back would have dealt with the King Gambit, but then like there was that Great Tusk, because even
Yeah,
if even if you preserve it, if the end game is King Gambit Great Tusk, I don't feel like you get to use it too much.
that's one of the big weaknesses as well from the Fire Iron Hands that you're still weak to Headlong Rush no matter what you do. So that is a rough outcome here, but he gets the sucker punch right, and now King Gambit can just cleanly take this game.
Yeah, Jet Punch taking out Torkoal just for a little revenge, but it does not matter. So yeah, very clean game one. I am a little surprised we didn't see the Lilligant game one because as a avid Lilligant enjoyer, I like to just go with it game one. It's like it might not even be a great Pokemon, but what it does is it has that residual chip on your opponent's mental, and that is important.
I think the fear of it too, just knowing that you're not afraid to whip it out, and I think it would have been fantastic, honestly, in game one. Obviously, he didn't even need it to win, but the option is still there. Like now, you have to make sure that you can beat this Fluttermane plus Torkoal combination. So the Ligant could just come out in game two. I believe Nails did actually do that in game two after winning game one without using it.
Yeah,
So we'll have to see if history repeats itself.
very true. And I feel like, they had a pretty good lead just looking back at last game. Palafin Iron Hands to kind of work into the Lilycole lead
Mhm.
because if you do Terrafire the Iron Hands and you go Arcanine, I feel like the worst thing that happens is your Arc gets put to sleep. But even that's not 100%. So I feel like the lead there is pretty good because I feel like you do want Palafin, at least for that Tusk in the back. Um, but I'm not sure how you make those plays to work around. If we do see that Fluttermane Torkoal again, that's just so much damage. At some point you're two-shotting the Iron Hands if you start clicking Shadow Ball, like crazy stuff.
Yeah, the damage, just the multiplier on multiplier is absurd. Um, and then like you still have to be weary of Torkoal because it can just spam eruption if you leave it alone. So it was just a very tricky combination in that game too for Justin to deal with it. It did extremely well.
Yeah, well, we saw that in game one where he did hit the Torkoal with a Drain Punch, and it was like, all right, cool, you did 29%. And then Eruption, it did get a crit on the Iron Hands, but it still did 35 to 2 resisted hits. So it's like, especially if you don't get that 29% chip at the start, like, that's just firing off 50% basically on every Pokemon, even the Palafin, honestly.
Exactly, yeah. Especially when it's in baby form, it's just doing no damage, and I feel like that's part of the issue too. Is like obviously I think Palafin's good, but it's just such a slow ball to get rolling, and it's really brutal here.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it is a unstoppable force and an immovable object, really here in this situation where if I feel like if the Palafin team gets like 2 or 3 turns where they can like get going and not take 60% on both their Pokemon, then they're in a really good spot because then you got the Palafin in the back, you've got your Iron Hands that resists a lot of the hits, and you can kind of work your way around and do your slow game that you want. But when you're losing 64% to your Arcanine on a Moonblast, that is it's not going to cut it, honestly.
All right, we're gonna see different leads from Semper here, but we have the same lead from
Ooh,
Justin.
interesting. How do you feel this
Double
match is up?
double choice item is really like obviously there's no protect in Iron Hands, so that's kind of the saving grace here. But leading double choice items is pretty crazy in open sheets.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's making you think. Like, if I fake out the Tusk, I don't get to see what it does. Obviously, it can still make a choice. Um, but if you make a switch, try to position the Iron Hands around, you will see what he locks into. But if if the offensive, if the offensive team ever makes a read here, uh, it just it snowballs very quickly. So I feel like you really do want to play slow here and, like you were saying, scout out what those choice items are going to lock into, because I don't think it has a perfect lock by any means on the Iron Hands and the Palafin. I don't think they like lose immediately or anything, but if you make the wrong play here, this is dangerous, very dangerous with 2 choice items.
I'm really worried for Justin in this case because, like, I think that the Great Tusk can just press Headlong Rush into Iron Hands, like, just free of charge. Like, what can you actually do? Like, you can't tear out of it. Nothing on Justin's team floats. So, and there is no resist to ground moves outside of using your Terras. So, like, I really like this lead from Semper here. It's like as an adjustment. And here we go.
All right, Terrifier, fake out. Pretty expected. Does this?
Oh.
Oh my gosh. I can't. No, I can believe that one shots. I believe it. It's the modest. It's got to be modest.
Modest
To get
specs,
that
yeah.
special attack boost. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you know how I was talking about not losing pieces so early. I feel like that's pretty bad.
I would say that's pretty bad. I
Yeah.
don't know what you could really do. Like that's such a rough spot. Obviously the Fluttermane can come in, but yeah, that's a rough one to lose. I like the thought process there from Justin. Like, fake out wave crash. If you get the KO onto Great Tusk, that's a great position. But obviously it didn't work out. Semper safely covered that play with the Moonblast, so this is a
Y-
rough one.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe you could have faked out the Tusk and gone Arcanine, and then tried to play that positional game where Sun is not up, so instead of taking, I don't know, 65 on switching from the Moonblast, you now take, I don't know, 40-ish, and don't get 2-hit KO'd, which would be cool, I guess. It's hard to justify switching in on a hit that almost does half of your health, but I think it was also a solid read, because I think that the Palafin would have lived a Dazzling Gleam, which would have made a lot of sense as well. So honestly, good read from Semper to go for the Moonblast, just try to get that damage off, which it definitely did.
Now we have another hard position here for Justin to navigate out of, especially with that turn one. But
Oh, it just takes it out. Wow. -1. I was so ready for that to live too. What is that Arcanine doing?
the scarf tusk, just showing why he can be so good in these matchups. And now it's got 2 Pokemon left for Justin. We got 3. We don't even know what the last one is for Sempra. I would imagine probably the King Gambit once again, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, and it's a surprising thing. Again, looking at this team sheet, I would have thought that that had to be Adamant Tusk to take out that Arcanine, and it's not. It's Jolly. He's just rocking with the max speed. He doesn't even need that attack boosting nature. It was a wild kill to get there.
Yeah,
Um,
I would expect Arcanines usually to be able to take that, but it must be a more aggressive set from Justin, probably trying to grab some KOs on like Golden Go or something. Who's to say?
that would make sense. Do we? I'm not too familiar with Fluttermane. Does Shadow Ball take out an opposing Fluttermane if you're the speed boosting one? I don't think so, right?
No, usually not.
All right, I
It's
think
gonna
we're gonna have to use it
try.
for a crit. Oh, 91. If that would have gotten the knockout, that would have. Oh, but he goes for Moonblast into the Iron Hands.
Okay, okay.
Very interesting. If it is that King Gambit in the back,
Iron
there.
Hands maybe could take this.
Yeah, because
Honestly.
we will see the knockout into the Fluttermane, and if Torkoal doesn't go for Eruption or a target into that Fluttermane, it's gonna stick around for another turn, maybe even more.
I would love just a Shadow Ball Drain Punch and double tap onto the Fluttermane here. I feel like it's super duper safe.
Or Moonblast as well. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
So we're not going to see it swap out.
All right, 32, half HP. Is this an eruption? How much is it doing? 26, 26. I'm telling you, half HP, 26 resisted hit. That's just ridiculous. Now,
Uh-oh.
the one interesting thing here is Sucker Punch is a neutral hit. Let's see how much this does.
The
Oh, and
free health pack.
you healed him, man. You healed him with that turn. 39.
39. This is going to
Ooh.
come down to the wire, actually. Wow, Justin really brought this back.
29. 35. Is it a roll? No.
No.
Wow. Oh,
Wow.
that is such an exciting way to go. I feel like that definitely could have been a roll. I could have seen that Iron Hands living, you know.
I could have saw it. Yeah, that was. I mean, it ended up being really close considering how bad that turn one was for Justin, but he really brought it back. And Iron Hands, like you said in that game one, like it was such an important Pokemon, and Justin did preserve it a little better in game two, and it almost went the distance, but unfortunately, it wasn't able to.
Yeah, I feel like when that turn one happened, I thought it was just over. And
I did
then
too. Yeah.
it was some really nice positioning with the Fluttermane, allowing himself to get that Shadow Ball on the opposing Fluttermane. And I think it was a little strange, but a fair read because if that Fluttermane protects, you don't want to hit into it, give the Iron Hands a free turn. So makes a lot of sense. I feel like it is just a bit of a tough matchup, but very fun to watch both of these players.
It was a blast to watch them. Obviously, I respect both these players. They're really obviously talented players, and it was a really cool opportunity to get them on here and let them show off their skill.
Everyone in chat saying best of five. Yeah, chat going crazy. Hey, maybe we will have to wait until next regional finals. You never know. Could be a cool top 8 set anytime. I would love to see these guys play more. But they have that team freedom at that point. They can bring whatever team they want next tournament.
I'm sure
So,
we're gonna see these guys again. I have no doubt we'll see them on the stream. I'm sure there'll be top cutting regionals here.
yeah, it's very cool. I'm definitely personally looking for my chance. I like kind of seeing where people are at from my own perspective. So, I'm very excited to play these guys. I've been only hearing good things. So,
We'll see if they all right, all right. So it looks like there will be no best of five, unfortunately.
yeah.
Um
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for the verdict. It could have been it
Yeah,
could have been
it
either
could
way.
have could have been a best of five, but looks like it's not going to be today. Um, but yeah, thank you for having me, Nino. Obviously, it was a cool opportunity to get to cast this one. It was a fun set. Super close, honestly. It really could have went either way. I think that it was just a little bit tough to break through that Torkoal.
Yeah, very well played from both. Very fun to cast. Shout outs to both you guys. Great time to be here. But yeah, I think we're wrapping it up. So thanks everybody for checking out the match here. I can't wait to do it again, honestly.